Welcome to Your Big Career Move, where your host, Yesham Nicholson, chats to people about their big career moves, uncovers their motivations, their fears, their successes, and everything in between. Be inspired by their stories, and if you're thinking of making your own big career move, head over to yescareercoaching.com. If you enjoy this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Hi, I'm Yesham Nicholson, and this is another episode of Your Big Career Move. And today I'm here with Lucy Cordrey, and she's got a really fabulous story to tell, of course, otherwise she wouldn't be here. So thank you so much, Lucy, for joining me today. And like I do with most of my guests, we might just go straight into what you were doing before your big career change, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on your podcast.
My pleasure.
I've had several career changes, but the biggest one was about 12 years ago. I used to work for the National Trust, a wonderful organisation. I was there in various guises. My job changed throughout the time I was there. I was there for 11 years, which is probably the longest I've ever been in a job.
That's 11 years is quite a long time.
It is.
For anybody who's listening who is not in the UK and isn't familiar with the National Trust, would you mind just giving us a quick snapshot? Because it's a very British institution, and I think probably most Brits would know, but perhaps not outside of the UK. So if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, the National Trust is an organisation that's been around probably, 200 years getting on for? No, maybe not quite yet, but yeah, it was a long time. And they are a big charity, so it's all membership, and they look after old houses, beautiful old houses and beautiful gardens. They also are very keen on their archaeology, their nature, their farming, their forestry, and their communities. They really work very closely with their communities. So they're a big conservation charity, and I was really very happy to be working for them because of their diversity. It was really interesting because quite a lot of conservation organisations are quite focused on specifics, whether it's birds or plants or animals or buildings, but the National Trust has this whole, kind of all areas of conservation under its umbrella, which makes it a fantastic organisation to work for. So I was working in the nature conservation, the conservation director at the nature conservation arm of that, with a wonderful team, and my job sort of was varied from sort of technical support, data management, student placement management, and doing lots of sort of bat surveys. So there was some sort of practical as well as sort of desk kind of stuff. It was really varied, and that's what I loved about it.
Sounds like it. Amazing.
As time went on, I found I wanted to sort of develop my role there, and I sort of got more involved in sort of interpretation and some sort of research work. But also the last 3 years that I was there, I was running a project on orchards. And it was a community project with lots of other communities. So it wasn't just on the National Trust sites, properties. So we were working with lots of different organisations, which was wonderful. And it was quite a challenging role. And I was managing quite a big budget. But I actually think that stood me in good stead for what I do now. I didn't know that at the time. But the Trust, like many organisations, went through a restructure, and the whole conservation directorate was pretty much kind of broken up and put back together. And my role, I was called a technician, which doesn't really help anybody understand what I did. But all the technical posts were axed, and our team was sort of decimated pretty much. And so it was a really not a very nice experience for any, you know, for the trust really to go through. I think it was probably necessary looking back on it.
Yeah.
But at the time it was quite painful. But it was my ticket out.
Yes. And that's what we're going to be talking about. But I'm interested to find out more about what was happening, because there might be people listening to you right now who are in the situation where they're about to be made redundant, or they've just been made redundant, and it is an emotional experience.
Very.
So if you don't mind going back to, how long ago is it now, Lucy? Is it 10 years?
It'll be, well, it was 2011 I left.
Oh, okay.
So
12 years
12
ago
years.
now. Can you think back to that time of, you know, what was going through your mind? Were you thinking, well, I'll just get another similar job? Or
I suppose my main priority at the time was to finish my project. I was a bit upset because they wanted me to go 3 months before my project had finished. And I said, no one's going to finish this project. I'm going to finish it. So I had to go above, you know, to skip my boss and go higher to ask them to keep me for another 3 months. I was desperately wanted to finish that project. I loved it so much. I thought no one else is going to have the satisfaction of finishing it. So they agreed to do that. So that helped. Otherwise, I don't think I would ever have forgiven them. But then I thought, you know what, when I've done that, I think mentally I was sort of feeling quite free, actually. I think I'd always felt, because I was at the trust for a long time, I always felt there will be a time when this isn't right for me anymore. And I've always wanted to have my own work for myself. I've always thought that's what I would want to do at some point. I didn't know when, and I didn't know how or what it would be. And so that was sort of bubbling back up into my mind, and I was thinking, this is the time, you know.
What was it that appealed to you about working for yourself?
Well,
probably changed now that now that you're doing it, but at the time,
I know what it's like. But I think at the time it was just me. I just wanted to make my own mark without having to do for me, and not for someone else. I always felt I was working for someone else, although obviously I was working for me. I was developing as a person throughout all of that, and still am. You never stop, I don't think, and you learn a lot about yourself all the time. Definitely. But I just thought my time is up here. I've done all I can. The trust is changing, and I don't think I fit that anymore. So I felt quite free. I got a good redundancy package that really helped, I have to say. And it gave me that breathing space, which I feel very fortunate to have had. So it allowed me to think about what's next without having to worry about finances. So I thought, okay, what's next? I've got no idea. So I know, let's go on a really good holiday.
Excellent. Always a good place to start.
Always a good place to start if you can. So I said to my partner Colin, I said, how do you fancy going to America for 6 weeks? I've always wanted to go to the national parks. I could never afford it. I never had the time until that point. So this is the time to go to Yosemite, Yellowstone, all these wonderful places. And then I'll worry about whatever when I come back.
And Colin said, no, that sounds horrible. Not interested.
Well, he was, because I mean, I paid pretty much for the flights and everything, but which I was very happy to do. It was nice to share that with him. And he managed to get 3 weeks unpaid leave and 3 weeks paid leave, so we had 6 weeks. So we did an amazing trip around America.
Fabulous.
And I have to say, I didn't know what to expect from America, never been, but it blew me away with amazing landscapes, wonderful people. I mean, I've heard, they're really loud, they're in your face, but they are the most friendliest, kind of happiest people I've ever come across. The point where I thought they're on something,
It was your influence, Lucy, I think, meeting you.
Well, I don't know. I just, even, people working in what we might, I don't know, jobs that, that are sort of perhaps a bit more mundane. The customer service, outstanding, always, no matter what it was, they were there to help. And I don't know if it was their pioneering spirit that was sort of enforced in them. I just don't know. They were always very can-do, very happy, very helpful, and everything, which was actually really refreshing and quite infectious. I came back feeling very positive. I can do stuff. So I recommend go to America and feel yourself up with some positivity.
Get a boost.
Get a boost, exactly. But it was whilst we were out in America, we were in, I've got a little prop here, we were in this particular brewery, I don't know if you can see that, Snake River Brewery in Wyoming, in Jackson Hole. And we were drinking some lovely beer, and we weren't expecting to be drinking such lovely hoppy beer, because a lot of the beers that we drink over here now are very hoppy, but going back then, we didn't, other than Brewdog, we didn't really know much about craft hoppy beers. So I was drinking this 6.8%, I have to say, very strong, because the beers out there tend to be stronger, hoppy IPA, and I thought, wow, this is different. And it was like, ding. I said to Carl, hey, why don't I look into brewing beer when I get home? And he said, okay. I think he thought I was just drunk, and it wasn't going to come to anything.
Which you may have been at the time, I guess.
Which I probably was. Yeah, totally. And I thought, well, okay, well, let's see. When I get back, I'll start exploring. And it was when we were on the journey home, I was looking through the in-flight magazine, Hemispheres.
Ta-da! You've still got it. Is that the copy?
Because I just think it's so funny. I was leafing through it, thinking, oh, when I get back, I'm going to set up a microbrewery. That's what I'm going to do. And there's this article about microbreweries in the Cotswolds, in Gloucestershire, where I live.
Gosh, if that's not a sign.
I thought it is a sign. Either don't do it, there's already loads, or go for it because it's something that people want, and I decided to go for it. So I set up a microbrewery.
Amazing.
Pico brewery, nano brewery, tiny, in my garage. So yeah, I just thought I'll dip my toe in the water and see what happens, really.
And did you have any experience at all?
No, not really. Drinking beer, which helps, I think, if you like your product that you're trying to sell to others and make for others. But no, I just I've done a little bit of home brewing, but nothing really like sort of serious. I guess I was going in the deep end and just going for it and not overthinking it too much. And I thought the first thing I'll do is get in touch with the local Campaign for Real Ale, which is a group of people who campaign for real.
The name suggests,
It was set up in the 70s, when beer was becoming quite mass produced and more industrial. So I was thinking, well, if I get in touch with these guys, they will be a good way into the local brewery and pub scene. So I'll get a feel for what's going on my patch, and get to know a few people locally who like beer.
Yes, and I mean, when you
customers,
this is it. So, but when you started brewing on a very small scale, Were you thinking, well, this is a nice little hobby, or were you thinking, well, I'm going to try this, and if I can turn it into a business, then that's brilliant? Or were you like, this is my business, this is what I'm going to be doing?
I wasn't thinking, I wanted it to be my business, but I wasn't beating myself up about it if it didn't work.
Okay. So was there a plan B?
So what I did was, because I thought, if it doesn't work, if I'm really rubbish at it, I might not enjoy it. I don't know. I need another job. So I did get another part-time job so the first year of my launching the business, I was working still. First year and a half, I'd say.
Okay.
But it clearly, in time, became obvious that if I was going to be serious about it, I had to focus on it full time.
Yeah.
But I would need support from my partner to do that, because I wasn't really earning enough. So he had to pay a bit more of the bills and things. But the other thing I did was, like, get in touch with my local Campaign for Ale, the guys and girls that enjoy the product and that will lead me to people that make it. And then I thought I'd better go on a course just so that I got some idea of what I'm doing. So I went on a sort of intense 1-week startup brewing course up in Sunderland, run by BrewLab, which I have to say was really, really good to do. But the course was interesting because there were two things I took from it. One I chose to ignore, the other I took on board. So the advice I took on board was to it's really important to get your marketing right. I know that's right is perhaps not the right word, but to focus on your marketing, because marketing can change. You may need to change your image with times, but it's really important to focus on your marketing, at least 50% of your resources, that's time and money, on your marketing, so that you stand out and you're noticed and it brings people in. And then obviously your product's got to be good once they get to that point. The second thing that I chose to ignore was that the size of your brewery should be a certain size. And there was no way I could afford a brewery of that size, even though it was tiny. They were talking something like 400 litres, say. Well, I decided to ignore that advice and focus on what I can do. So that American kind of influence, what can I do? And I thought, I'll just get a little 100-litre kit and put it in the garage, and we'll go from that basis and we'll grow it if it works.
Have you been back in touch with them to say, I've made this a success despite the fact?
I haven't. And it's interesting. Maybe I should. I think it's really subjective as to where you should start something and how big you should be. Anyway, and to be honest, I guess I sort of understand why they said what they did, because economically you want to pay yourself something, really. You want to, be able to afford to pay your bills and your rent on your unit that your brewery kit's in, possibly. I kind of get it, but at the same time, there's always more than one way of doing things. So
I can agree more. I mean, I've come across quite a few micro brewers over the last few years, and it's a notoriously difficult industry to crack, because there are so many people that love the idea of brewing their own beer for very obvious reasons. What is it, do you think, that's made your business a success? And 12 years later you're still going, where a lot of microbreweries have fallen over and they don't exist anymore. What's the difference between you and them, do you think?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't like to say what the difference is between me and them, but all I know is what I feel worked for us was, at the beginning, I felt it was really, really important to make connections, face-to-face connections. So from the garage, we couldn't sell our beer, but we could sell our beer in our local farmers market. So that was our shop window. That was our window where people could come and talk to us directly about our product, who we are, the face behind the product, all of that sort of stuff, which I think now people are much more, you do see the person behind the product a lot more because of social media, and but then I think it really helps to grow those relationships, because that's your foundation, and you get that, build that well, get it solid, and then you can jump from that. The farmers market was crucial, and I even though we don't sell in the farmers market anymore, we only stopped, was it 2020 because of COVID, and then we didn't go back. I still support the farmers market. I go and support the traders. It's a wonderful camaraderie as well. You get to talk to other traders, you support each other, you use each other's sounding boards, and it's very supportive community. So, and it's fun. There's something very raw and tangible and real about it. And I think that's a good feeling to have. It makes you feel you're doing something real.
It's funny because I don't know if you listened to my interview with Michael recently, who's the owner of Golden Sheep Coffee, and he said exactly the same, that one of his favorite things to do is to be at the markets and just chat with people, and it's the realness of it. And I think being able to talk to your customers face to face about your product and see them excited about it, I think that must be really, really
that is
fun
the best
and
thing.
satisfying.
Totally. When you get that. Before, I found it really hard to explain what I did, and now I say, well, I brew beer, and immediately you get this beam. Really? And it's just wonderful. And it's such an easy thing to sort of talk about.
If you could go back in time and talk to the Lucy 12 years ago who's just found out she's about to be made redundant, what advice would you give her?
I think don't panic. Go give yourself some breathing space. I think that's really, really important, to give yourself breathing space and tap into, think about what you enjoy in life, tap into your strengths if you can work out what those are, look at what you've achieved to date and be proud of where you are, and go forward and do more good stuff, because that's all you can. That's all we want to do, isn't it? We all want to make a contribution to life that is going to make a difference, is going to be positive, it's going to bring help or joy, or we all want to feel good, don't we?
We do. I think we do, and I think sadly people do lose track of that because they're caught up in the day-to-day and rushing through the day, one meeting to the next, and actually really it's easy to forget.
To take time out for yourself. I think I'm able, in a sort of strange way, maybe able to do that a little bit more now that I'm working for myself. Although you never really stop working when you work for yourself, so it's
it's a 24/7, isn't it?
It is a bit, but I think my business it turned a corner probably 5 years in, and we could start seeing things falling into place. But I think you've just got to be very determined. And someone said to me, Lucy's someone who knows her mind, and I think if you do know what makes you tick, and I think that's hard for people sometimes to work that out, and that changes over time as well.
Sure, of course it does.
And I think that's the thing I've learned, is that, and I think you talked about this with Dave King, is that change is so certain. It's a certain in life, and embracing it is really important to do, because you waste a lot of energy fighting it.
Absolutely. And in that vein, what are the top things that you've learned about yourself going through this massive transition?
I mean, that flexibility and adaptability, and being able to work in a different way perhaps than you're used to, and try it. Because I guess when I was at the trust, my work was extremely structured. I didn't realize how structured it was, actually. I used to think I was working all over the place, but actually there was a lot of structure there. And now there's structure in my business, but it's more fluid, and because we own the business, we have to sort of make those changes to adapt and respond to outside influences. And my partner has a very different working style, so I wasn't sure how that was going to work initially, but I had to sort of learn to work differently with him. And he's very efficient, but he's very messy.
Right.
So, but it's we all have different styles, and as long as we get to where we need to be, it doesn't matter how you get there necessarily, as long as you're happy.
So when you're talking about your partner, we're talking about Colin.
We're talking about Colin,
who, when you first announced that you were going to start a brewery, was like, "Are you drunk?"
Yes.
And suddenly, well, not suddenly, but a few years later, here he is working with you.
Yes.
And
equal partners now.
Yeah.
Yes.
How cool is that?
Yeah, no, it's really cool actually, because it got to the point where I said to him, if I'm gonna make this work, I need to work on it full time. And he said, fine, I'll support you in that decision. And then as time went on, he gradually he could see that there was something in this microbrewery business that I was developing. And he would come to the market, and he enjoyed it, and he enjoyed sort of thinking about what recipes, beer recipes, and I thought, this is so good that Colin's enjoying this, because I couldn't take it completely on my own. I would always need some input from somebody. You can't, with any business, you need support. So he eventually went down part-time, and then eventually, I think it was 2018, I remember it, May 2018, he left his landscaping job. He worked for a local company, left that eventually, and was on Crinny Mills full time. And it just made my life so much better, and our lives so much better, because we were doing so much in the evenings after he'd come in from work. We'd be bottling in the garage. Well, now we could do that in the day, and those sorts of things. We could change our pattern of working and claim our evenings back, which was incredible.
The luxury of having
an evening. I know. I forget. I think I've forgotten a lot of. It was bloody hard, actually.
It is hard work, but now you're reaping the rewards by the sounds of it.
Reaping the rewards, yeah.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
And now that you've been through this, I mean, it's been a hell of a journey, hasn't it? From leaving the National Trust to trying out this new thing to actually having this successful business that not just employs you, but also your partner. I think it's such a fabulous story. What's your definition of success nowadays?
We measure success in certain ways, don't we? By finances, by awards, and that sort of thing. But I just think it's that, and that all those things are important. Actually, you need the money, don't you? Otherwise, your business isn't going to work.
It's just a hobby.
Yes, you need it to support you. And we do have some staff working with us as well now. So, but I just think it's that. I don't know. I really find it difficult. I was talking earlier about making a difference, and I think for me, if I feel I'm contributing something, that makes me feel successful. If they enjoy it. So it's making something that's tangible that you share with someone else and they enjoy it, and it's a sort of a loop. You feed off each other. I mean, I feed off the energy our customers give me. Sometimes I'm flagging, and then suddenly you get your customers saying, "Oh, I really enjoyed that," or "That was so good that," and they just give you that little nugget, and you think, "Oh, God, I needed that." And it just fuels you.
I totally get that.
They're so important. The customers obviously are so important. And in the trust, I used to have like PDRs, annual reviews, and you get your pat on the back, or you get you need to focus on this or whatever. I don't get any of that now, of course. So that sort of guidance and steering, I do myself, but my customers give me that. They're my pat on the back.
And so, and I guess that's why keeping up the relationship with your customers is so important, isn't it? And continue to have that dialogue. And I think that's actually what a lot of businesses end up losing as they grow. They lose that communication and that direct feedback.
I can see how that happens. I mean, I already feel that's happening a little bit, but I try and sort of bring it back by, you know, we're over 10 years old now, our business, and we now brew off-site in a lovely location where I live. And I think it's really important to I really love involving our customers in celebrations.
Yeah.
But there has to be something to hook it on. So the celebration this year we're doing is a play.
Oh.
to celebrate our 10th anniversary. All of our beers have got names and their little characters. So they are coming to life. They are the cast in our play.
I love it. Where's this creative? Who's that coming from?
Me, actually. That creative streak is I tap into with the beer, creating, you know, making beer, but it's also that marketing is creativity and bringing people in and bringing things to life. Yeah, is really fun.
How nice that you're able to use that strength, because again, I think when you're in a job, sometimes you get just caught up in doing the day-to-day and going from one meeting to the other and, you know, responding to emails, and before long you've forgotten what you're actually really good at or what you really enjoy doing. And actually stepping outside of that sometimes can remind us, oh, actually I do have this creative streak and I'm really good at this and I'm really fascinated by that. It's really, I love hearing that you're able to use all these skills again.
And it's tapping into people around you again. So local theatre company, who are a community theatre, I said to them, would you be interested in developing a script around my beer characters? And they were like, yeah. And you think, and now the play's going to be in a week or so, and they're in, you know, rehearsals and everything, dress rehearsals next week, and it's taken 2 years to do this.
Wow.
Because we're all working.
Yeah, of course.
So I had this idea 2 years ago that when we get to 10, I want to celebrate somehow differently. I think my customers think I'm bonkers. That is the beauty of working for yourself, is being able to have an idea, run with it, see where it goes. It may not go anywhere, but you don't know unless you give it a whirl. Yeah,
totally. So this is your opportunity to give a little plug for your business, because I don't know if we've actually mentioned what the name of your business is, have we? It's Corinium Ales, for anybody who's interested and would like to try Lucy's fabulous beer. And how can people try your beautiful beer?
Okay, so we are still quite small. So it's only really available within a sort of 30-mile radius of Cirencester in Gloucestershire. But Corinium Ales, the name Corinium is the Roman name for Cirencester. So Corinium is Cirencester's Roman heritage, really. So we shamelessly hooked. So our marketing is all around the heritage, and the beer characters are Ale Caesar, Centurion, you know, Boadicea, but they're all linked to things that have either happened locally or you know, have a sort of Roman theme to them. So they can buy our beer. Well, there is an outlets page on our website. They can buy the beer direct from the brewery on a Friday and a Saturday and Sunday, or they can go to one of the outlets. There are shops, Gloucester services, local pubs. There's
great. We'll put a link to your website in the show notes as well, so if anybody wants to have a little nose, then they can. It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Well, thank you.
You know, I really have loved hearing your story, because you really have made it such a success. It's fabulous. And I wish you all the very best with the play. I think it sounds amazing, and I hope it goes well, and I hope the weather is fabulous for you.
Probably be a big thunderstorm. We'll see. Yeah, make it all dramatic.
That's it. It'll get people talking, and then
It
people will
will. They won't
remember it
forget
for
it.
years to come. Yeah, quite.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Oh,
much for your time, Lucy. I really
thank you, Esme.
appreciate it.
No, that's great. I hope people enjoy it. Yeah.
I'm sure they will. If you've been inspired by Deb's story today and you want to make your own career change but aren't quite sure where to start, then you might like to start with 10 powerful and slightly unusual questions that I've created to help you to get a step closer to your next career. Just go to yescareercoaching.com/10 career change questions, and don't worry, I will also put that link in the show notes for you. Take care.